Hello everybody and welcome to the KD Adventures, where we make theme park and adventure videos every single week. If you enjoy watching this video, make sure to let us know by hitting that like button. And if you're new to the channel and you're feeling extra cheeky, be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell so you don't miss a single thing. You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram, just search for the KD Adventures. When Universal Studios Orlando opened in 1990, the park introduced the world to some of the most immersive and exciting rides and attractions at that time. The park was that popular that in 1999, the original park expanded into a resort and introduced City Walk and also a brand new theme park. Universal's Islands of Adventure is now home to some of the resort's best rides, ranging from motion-based and trackless dark rides to thrilling and fast roller coasters. And although there's some incredible rides across both parks, today we're going to be focusing on Islands of Adventure and counting down the top 10 most exciting rides. Before I get started, I just need to point out that this video was created before the opening of the new Jurassic Park Velocicoaster, which I'm sure when it does open will be towards the top of this list. So let's get straight on into it. Number 10. Flight of the Hippogriff. In 2014, the Wizarding World arrived at the Universal Orlando Resort. Over at Universal Studios, you have Diagon Alley, which is home to one of the park's best attractions, Escape from Gringotts. However, over at Islands of Adventure, you have Hogsmeade, which now has 3 Harry Potter themed rides, 2 of which we'll be discussing later on in the video, and one being Flight of the Hippogriff. Flight of the Hippogriff is a junior coaster which opened in 2010. The ride was actually a redesign of an already existing roller coaster known as Flying Unicorn, which closed in 2008. Now, although unicorns are magical creatures, the coaster is no longer themed around them. The new backstory is that Hagrid is teaching young wizards how to fly a hippogriff by using fake replicas of the creature, which is of course your ride vehicle. The coaster itself is nothing spectacular, and this is why it's at the top of the list, but that's expected of a junior coaster. Overall, it is a fun family ride and definitely a must if you're a fan of Harry Potter. Number 9. Skull Island Reign of Kong. Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure are no strangers to screen-based dark rides. Some are done really well, and some not so much. What makes a good screen-based dark ride is the amount of theming used as well as the screens to really immerse you in the experience. One of the rides that does this really well is Skull Island Reign of Kong. In my opinion, I actually prefer the queue line over the attraction itself. The theming in the queue line is incredible and has some amazing animatronics and spooky scenery. On the ride itself, you enter an expedition truck with 1 of 5 different drivers with their own backstory. You're warned of the island's dangers, and then you enter an 80-foot tall temple. Inside this temple, you encounter various animatronics and the remains of a giant ape. After this, you then enter the screen-based section of the ride, where of course you come face to face with Kong himself. To make this screen-based section of the ride even more realistic, you're also wearing 3D glasses, so it really brings those screens to life. After you've experienced this exciting encounter with Kong and the dinosaurs, you exit the screen section and enter arguably the best part of the ride. As the truck drives round, you meet a giant Kong animatronic. This animatronic is incredible and is definitely the highlight of the ride in my opinion. Overall, Kong is a ride which you'll either love or you'll hate, but either way, it's still an exciting experience and it's worth giving it a go when you visit Islands of Adventure. Number 8. Dudley Do-Right's Ripsaw Falls. Over the years, attractions at the Universal Studios Orlando parks have come and gone. However, there's some that are still remaining from opening day, one of which is Dudley Do-Right's Ripsaw Falls at Islands of Adventure. This log flume by Mack Rides opened in 1999 with the park and is of course inspired by the Dudley Do-Right cartoons. The Toon Lagoon area of the park is one of my favourite areas in any park across the whole world. It just brings back a lot of memories when I used to visit as a kid, and I love how it makes you feel like you're in a cartoon world. Dudley Do-Right's Ripsaw Falls, which can be found at Toon Lagoon, has a Splash Mountain kind of layout, without the huge amount of animatronics. The length of a ride may only be half the length of Splash Mountain, but it still has a pretty lengthy ride time of 5.5 minutes. Dudley Do-Right's Ripsaw Falls has a very unique main drop, as it features one main drop where you plunge 75 feet into a dynamite shack, which explodes as you go through it, spraying you with water. But after that, you then also climb up a secondary smaller hill and drop down into a splash pool, which if you're unlucky will get you soaked. Overall, I love this ride. I will say it does feel a little outdated now and needs some loving, but I really do enjoy this log flume, and it's guaranteed to get you wet, which is what you want on a log flume. It's a fun ride, it has an exciting main drop as well as a couple smaller drops inside, and it's also a great way to cool off when the Florida heat is at its worst. Number 7. Doctor Doom's Fearfall. Marvel Superhero Island is a fantastic area found at Islands of Adventure. It has some of the park's biggest and best attractions, two of which we'll discuss later in the video, but one ride that makes the list is Doctor Doom's Fearfall. Just the name of it itself can tell you that this is going to be an exciting ride, and it really is. What I love the most about this ride is the story, as it makes a really good build up for the ride itself. As you enter the queue line, you enter Doctor Doom's laboratory. Screens around the laboratory show Doctor Doom's latest invention, a device that captures your fear, which can be then used to defeat the Fantastic Four. The queue line has some great theming, and tells the story well through the screens and theming to really build up the ride and really build up that fear and excitement. The ride itself is an S&S space shot tower, which launches riders 185 feet up into the air. This is of course pretty scary, especially when you're waiting to be launched upwards. However, the force of the ride isn't too intense. The best part of the ride is the view that you get on the first launch, as you get some incredible views of the park depending on where you're sat. After the initial launch, you're launched upwards again a few more times, and the whole ride lasts approximately 60 to 90 seconds. So it may not be the longest ride, but it definitely is one of the most exciting, and it's always on my to-do list when I visit Islands of Adventure. Number 6. Popeye and Bluto's Buildwrap Barges. Earlier we spoke about Dudley Do-Right's Ripsaw Falls, and how 9 times out of 10 you'll end up getting wet. Well, up next we have a ride that is guaranteed to be a soaker. Popeye and Bluto's Buildwrap Barges is one of my all-time favourite rapids in the world, because it's just so much fun and one of the funniest rides to experience with family and friends. On this rapids ride, Popeye has organised a river tour, but Bluto sends riders off into dangerous waters after capturing olive oil. The ride takes you through caves, up super soaking lift hills, and even straight under waterfalls. There's not a chance that you will come off this rapids with a dry spot on you. Although this ride was opened in 1999 with the park, it's now a little outdated in terms of scenery and effects, but it doesn't really need to have any updates. It's just an all-round fun ride and one of the most exciting and fun attractions at Islands of Adventure. Number 5. Jurassic Park River Adventure. Now on to the final water ride on this list, and this one is a classic. Jurassic Park River Adventure was another opening day attraction at the park, and is of course based on the 1993 film Jurassic Park. On this river adventure, you enter through the giant Jurassic Park gates and head down a river, as you encounter the many different dinosaurs. These dinosaur animatronics are huge, and although animatronics have come a long way since then, when the park opened in 1999, these dinosaur animatronics would have been some of the best out there. The boat ride is actually quite a peaceful experience, for the most part. That's until a dinosaur pokes its head out from under the water and causes the boat to drift into the raptor containment area. In this containment area, you head up a huge lift hill and encounter a bunch of naughty dinosaurs, who try and crush you with falling crates, spray water at you, and cause all kinds of mischief. When you reach the top of the lift hill, you're greeted by a huge Tyrannosaurus Rex who tries snapping at the riders before plunging down an 85-foot drop. In terms of the soak levels of this ride, sometimes you'll get wet and sometimes you won't. But either way, whether you get wet or not, this ride is so much fun and an absolute must when visiting the park. The Jurassic Park area of Islands of Adventure is, at the time of recording this video, receiving major updates, which includes the much anticipated Velocicoaster, which will be opening soon in 2021. Although no one has yet experienced this coaster, I'm sure it'll be way up there on this list when it does open, and I can't wait to experience it in future. Number 4. The Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man. Back over to Marvel's Superhero Island now, and another one of Islands of Adventure's screen-based trackless dark rides. Compared to some of the newer screen-based rides at Universal Studios, The Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man is done right. It uses a mix of screens, scenery and effects to make you feel like you're in the Marvel universe. The 3D effects are fantastic, and to say that the ride opened in 1999, it's pretty up to date. Having said that, the attraction did go through a refurbishment in 2011 to update the screens to make them high definition and to also update the ride mechanics. The Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man starts off in the queue, where you're introduced to the story of the ride. 5 supervillains led by Dr. Octopus steal the Statue of Liberty and threaten to destroy the city if they do not surrender to them. The ride itself sends you into the city to cover the story for the Daily Bugle. Even though it's only a trackless dark ride, one of the main reasons that The Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man is higher up on the list is that the story itself is exciting from start to finish. The effects, motions and 3D are done really well, and as you progress through the ride, it gets more and more intense. There's fire effects, water effects, and at the end of the ride, you're made to feel like you're climbing and then falling off a 400-foot building using really impressive effects. As I mentioned earlier, this is how screen-based rides should be done. If you compare Spider-Man to the likes of Fast and the Furious over at Universal Studios, or even Kong, which we spoke about earlier, these two rides rely heavily on just the screens, whereas Spider-Man mixes the scenery and effects with the screens to make a more immersive ride experience. Overall, The Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man is one of the best rides at Islands of Adventure, and personally, it's one of my favourite dark rides in the world. Number 3. Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey. Moving on to another dark ride now, and we're heading back over to Hogsmeade to talk about another Harry Potter themed ride. Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey opened in June 2010. It was advertised to use never before seen technology, which would transform the theme park experience as we knew it. And they were not wrong. The ride is incredible and uses extremely technical effects to create a super smooth and fun motion dark ride. Unlike other motion-based dark rides like Spider-Man, Forbidden Journey uses robo-coaster technology, which is a robotic arm which allows you to pivot in your seat as you're held above the track. This scenic dark ride takes you around Hogwarts, a Quidditch match, and encounters with a Whomping Willow and Dementors. With the robotic arm technology, you twist, turn, spin and drop throughout the ride. Although you never go upside down, you do end up lying down flat at some points during the ride. Even the queue before you get on the ride is incredible, as you enter Hogwarts Castle and come face to face with familiar rooms and scenery from the films. Not only that, in the queue you have lifelike projections of some of the characters of the films, like Harry, Ron, Hermione and Dumbledore. This attraction is one of the best dark rides in the world, and it's an absolute must when you visit Islands of Adventure. Whether you're a fan of the Harry Potter films or not, you still need to experience this dark ride when you visit, because there's no other attraction out there that really takes you into another world like this one does. It's truly a magical experience, and by far one of the best rides at Islands of Adventure. Number 2. The Incredible Hulk Coaster. Moving on now to the top 2 rides in this list, and you won't be surprised to find out that they are the 2 coasters found in the park. At number 2 we have the Incredible Hulk Coaster, which is a B&M steel launched coaster themed around the Incredible Hulk. This ride opened in 1999, and although it has undergone some changes since then, it's still going strong and one of the most iconic aspects of the park. Whenever I think of Islands of Adventure, I think of that giant cobra roll on the Incredible Hulk coaster. The ride itself is very intense, with multiple inversions and speeds up to 67 miles per hour. But probably the most exciting part of a ride is the launch. Most launch coasters in the world launch on a straight flat track at no angle. But with the Incredible Hulk coaster, you're launched out of a giant 110 foot tall, 30-degree angled tube at 40 miles per hour, straight into a corkscrew. Then dropping 105 feet, going into the huge cobra roll. This coaster is super intense, and not for the faint of heart. The coaster lasts just over 2 minutes, which is quite a long time for a roller coaster, and the intensity is non-stop throughout. In 2015, the ride closed for almost a year for refurbishments, which included a new story, modifications to the queue and entrance, onboard audio and special effects, and even parts of the track were replaced along with the trains to improve smoothness of the ride. The refurbishment was a great decision by Universal, and now the coaster is running better than ever. The Incredible Hulk coaster is by far one of, if not the most intense coaster, across both parks. When you leave the station, head towards that angled launch and see that corkscrew at the end of the tunnel. There's nothing quite as exciting and scary across the whole of Islands of Adventure. Number 1. Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure. After opening in 2010, the Wizarding World has been one of the most popular theme park areas in the entire world. At Universal Studios, you have Escape from Gringotts, which is a fantastic dark ride, but at Islands of Adventure, this is where the main bulk of the Harry Potter themed rides are at. As I mentioned earlier in the video, the park has Flight of the Hippogriff and also Forbidden Journey. But in 2019, a new Harry Potter themed roller coaster made its way to the park. Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure is a very unique multiple launched motorbike roller coaster, which features indoor and outdoor sections. As you speed round the track on your motorbike through the Forbidden Forest, you encounter some of your favourite characters and of course a bunch of magical creatures. You'll come across Fluffy the three-headed dog, Cornish pixies, Devil's Snare, unicorns, and even a blast-ended Scroot, which was never actually featured in the films. Not only is the coaster great, but the story is too. On board you have speakers which play a score inspired by the Harry Potter films, as well as allowing Hagrid himself to talk to you as you go on your magical journey. The coaster reaches speeds of up to 50 miles per hour and features 7 launches, which is more launches than any other coaster in the world. Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure is also the most expensive roller coaster ever built, beating Animal Kingdom's Expedition Everest by $200 million, which is a huge jump from the previous record. The ride cost a total of $300 million, and this would have been due to the huge amounts of animatronics, ride technology, launches, and also the track drop section featured on the ride. With all these aspects to the ride, it's no surprise that Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure is at number 1 on this list of the park's most exciting rides. It's fun, fast, has a great story, and is one that cannot be missed when visiting Islands of Adventure. So there we have it, the top 10 most exciting rides at Universal's Islands of Adventure. Which is your favourite ride on this list? Let me know down in the comments below. We all have different preferences on rides, and all the attractions at the park are exciting in different ways, so I'd love to know your thoughts. But that's it for this video. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one.